kind of like a cloud mixture too. So, and I've got my cup right here. It's a smallish plastic cup. We need 6 ounces for an 11 by 14. So I'm going to layer this up. I've got it all prepped with my little tab on it right there. So there's a little hole and it's being covered by my little tape tab. So we are going to see what happens. So I've got, these are both leftovers right here. This is kind of a bluish gray color. It's a mixture of a few different things. This is kind of, I don't even know what's in here, but it's a dark gray. I think there's a little green in here, probably some blue, but it's just like a kind of a dark color. So you could kind of think of this as a black. And then right here we've got, I mixed this up fresh. This is gold and bronze. And I didn't want to have it so bright as gold. I didn't want it to have such a bright yellow, but bronze is a little too dark. So I kind of mixed my own. So it's kind of a beautiful caramely color. And I use my Liquitex formula for this one. So that's 3 parts Floetrol, 1 part, 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts Liquitex Pouring Medium, and then 3 parts paint. That's my Liquitex pouring mixture, which I like a lot. So let's see, we're going to flood. Actually, before we do that, we need to fill our cup, then do our flood coat, and then we are going to do our floating cup. So I've got my little flipper tool right here, and we're going to see what's happening. And there's all kinds of commotion and chatter in the comments. That's awesome. And Susan is saying many folks on YouTube waiting for me. I'm not sure exactly why that is. It should have started already. So I'm not quite sure what is going on there, but let's see. I can't really do much about that. It should have started. It indicates that it started for me, so I'm not quite sure. Maybe try refreshing the screen. That might help. But so give that a shot. So just 1 second here. So Susan is saying a lot of people are on YouTube waiting for me. I'm going to just jump over there super fast and see if I'm showing up. Sorry, I didn't anticipate issues. Okay, just let me go over there real quick. Well, it says it's live right now, so I'm going to just try clicking in and see if I can watch. And it's showing up for me. I don't want to like totally screw up the sound. So, all right, cool. All right. Lorna said, I am on YouTube. Thanks so much, Lorna. I appreciate that. So, all right. Okay, thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Sorry about any confusion or technical issues. All right, so let's get going. We haven't done anything yet. So I just went over the colors. We've got like a pearl pour mix. We've got a couple of leftover colors. I've got this gold and bronze color right here. It's got a little bit of Liquitex in it. And we're going to combine a floating cup technique and a pearl pour / cloud pour technique. So let's go ahead and layer our cup, and we're going to see what this is going to do. I have really no idea. I'm sure it'll look like a pretty floating cup, but we'll see if we get any other interesting effects. So I'm going to start out with that kind of caramely metallic color, then some of our kind of mid-value blue. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of our pearl mixture. I want to have some light values in here as well. So I'll put some of that in, and then we'll go with our dark kind of grayish green color. And then maybe another layer of those. And you don't have to, I'm being very careful about pouring down the sides and things. You really don't have to. Since this is a floating cup, you can kind of pour in any direction you want. I'll put a little bit more of our Got a pearl mix in there. That's kind of a high pour. It kind of sunk in there. And let's go a little more of our dark. And that's it. We have our 6 ounces. And so this is probably going to be a relatively quick demo just because it's kind of a small canvas, and but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to move our cup to the side for a moment, and then we're going to do a what am I trying to say? A flood coat. Actually, maybe I won't do a flood coat. I'm just going to do kind of a, I'll move it around with my palette knife. I'll just make it a little extra thick, perhaps. Whoa. Actually, why not do a flood coat? Maybe I'll do them, since we're combining techniques, I'll try to make up a new way to do a flood coat. So we'll try a flood coat out. I haven't tried this way yet. I've tried every way of doing a flood coat. I've not found a great way of doing them. It's kind of just a messy process no matter what I found. But maybe this will be good. So I'm going to just kind of even this out. Again, this is the number 3 consistency that we're using here. Okay, let's see if we can just make a, it's going to be all weird, probably. I don't know exactly why I needed to do a flood coat on this, but I'm into it now, so let's go ahead and do it. Or kind of a hybrid flood coat. You can use your hands. That's totally fine. And I see a question from Kathy. And the flood coat is my pearl pour mix, yes. So again, that is 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part DecoArt Satin Enamels. I'm using the DecoArt Satin Enamels in this one. You could use the Bare Satin Enamels as well. 1 part of the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic White, and then 1 part of the Liquitex Pouring Medium. And there we go. This is a total mess. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm all flummoxed from the YouTube thing, perhaps. So I'm going to wipe my hands off. It looks pretty good to me. All right. I might torch this just a tiny bit. I've got a couple little air bubbles. And then I'm going to, actually, before I torch, I'm going to put my little mound in here, my little landing pad for my floating cup. And I'll do just a quick little torch. Here we go. And Donna's saying it looks pretty white. Yeah, it's pretty white. So we've definitely got it covered in white. So there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our cup on there. So I'm going to use my little tool, flip this over, and then I'm just going to drop my cup right in that. It's a little messy, but it's okay. Just drop it in that like pool, that little small pool of paint I had. And I like to have that little pool there because the paint is going to flow into that, which is going to create some very cool cells and lacing, perhaps. Some very interesting things. So I'll let that sit there for just a second. And let's see. And Cinda is asking if the flip tool is on my YouTube list. Yes, it is on there. I just got this it's just like a kitchen chopper thing. So you can get it at the dollar store if you have one of those around. Or like Walmart has these. It is on my Amazon store, though, if you want to check it out. It's a handy little tool. Okay, so we've got that on there. Let's go ahead and pull our tape tab and see what happens. Actually, wait, before I do that, let me flip the camera so you can get a little better view of the paint. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and pull our tab. And there we go. I'm going to flip back. That wasn't as dramatic as I was hoping for, but so we've kind of released the paint. It's kind of flowed into our white base coat. I'm going to just kind of lift and release a little bit more paint out. I like to kind of twirl the cup as I do that to release a little bit more. And we could also float it around. The paint cup doesn't really want to move too much right now. There's probably a little bit too much vacuum still in it. So there we go. We can kind of move it around a little. I'll take a look underneath the cup. And we've got some interesting things. We could leave that now, or we could do a little more of a twirl if we wanted to. It looks kind of interesting to me. I think I might just let it go. And at this stage of the game, we've got our paint puddle here. We haven't really done any stretching. If we wanted to, we could do a few finger drags, things like that. I might do some of that. And my thinking is maybe I can bring up some of the base coat to create a little bit more of a reaction. So I'm just going to do some finger drags through here. It also add a bit more interest to our composition. And you could use like the combs if you wanted to. I'm not going to pull those out. They traumatize certain people, I know. So I'm going to leave those in the drawer for now. Maybe I'll do one more finger pull though, or finger drag. There we go. And I like to do this at this stage because all the paint can flow back into itself again. You're not going to be left with like bare spots on your canvas. So that looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and tilt it out. We've got some cells developing in here, which is pretty cool. And Donna is asking if I enjoyed finger painting as a kid. And I didn't. I hated it. I didn't like to get my fingers like dirty or like in paint or anything. I guess I still don't because I'm wearing gloves. So, but I really didn't like that when I was a kid. I've gotten much more used to it now. So, but okay, let's go ahead and do a little bit of a tilting. So I'm going to tilt this pretty much the same way I would tilt a floating cup. I'm just going to expand my paint puddle. And we've got a bunch of cells that were right on the edge there, but those are all probably going to get lost. Usually everything on the outskirts of your paint puddle, it's hard to keep unless you want to do some kind of a negative space pour. If you pour off of all of your corners, it's really difficult to keep anything on the edges. So there we go. We've kind of expanded it. Now I might be able to keep this if I did a little bit of negative space. I'm going to do something I normally don't do. I'm going to pour off of the side here first and not the corner. I might go back to that and pour off anyway, though. So we've covered those, or this one. I'm going to kind of maneuver that paint back towards the center. Now this is a thinner mixture, a bit thinner, so the paint wants to flow more easily, which can be good. You can kind of get your paint moving quicker, but it can be an issue because it's easier to overstretch your cells. So it's kind of a, bonus pluses and minuses to all of that. So I left that white line. I'm not sure if I like that because it's now we have this very contrasty white and dark here. I think I'm going to tilt that off again. I was going to see if I could maybe do something with that, but I don't like it. So I'm going to just tilt that back off. That's just a composition thing that was bothering me. So we've got this interesting little white shape up here, this little interesting white shape, down here. I kind of like those subtle, small white shapes. It's like tiny little negative space spots. Maybe I'll keep them. I'm going to just let this sit here for a moment and take a look at it. And I see another question about Tracy had about the flip tool. And Tracy is wondering where do you find that on my list? It should be on there. However, sometimes those items go like out of stock or are discontinued, and then they kind of vanish. So I'll take another look. It should be in the acrylic pouring tools section, but I'll take a look again. I mean, sometimes those smaller items kind of just get discontinued, or they don't restock them, and so they just kind of disappear. But I'll take a look. If that one isn't there, I'll just add another one. So there are many like that on Amazon. So let's see here. I'm gonna just revisit my painting here. We've got a lot of kind of mid-value things happening. There's not as much white as I would like, and we're not getting any like pearl cells really. That's probably because we have too much paint on the surface. So I'm going to pour some more off, probably this corner down here. I really like what's happening up here. We've got some cells over here. If I thin out some of this paint, we might start getting some of those pearl cells popping up. So let's just go ahead, and I'm going to try to keep that negative space. And this is going to be the kind of sacrificial corner right down here. So I'm just kind of moving from side to side a little bit. Well, I'm kind of losing part of that negative space, but that's okay. I'm stretching those cells out from up here down into the composition. I quite like that. And we're getting a couple little things kind of pop up. Do a little bit more. Okay, so we tilted off quite a bit. I'm going to just kind of move the paint back into the canvas a little. There we go. All right, and that's one of the keys to the pearl pour, is having thinner paint, but then tilting rather quickly and thinning that paint out and allowing those pearl cells to pop up through that thin paint. And normally when you're doing like a pearl pour, you're not using a ton of paint on top of your canvas. So this is like a hybrid technique. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but we are getting some pearls popping up in here, a few of them, which is kind of cool. So I kind of like it. I like these corners right up here. They're in the spots that I don't want them to be. I wish cool stuff like this was way over in here and kind of in the middle of the painting a little bit more. But we are getting a few little things. Now, a lot of people torch And I'll go ahead and torch. Normally, I don't torch too much after I do the flip cup or have poured my cup out. But it can help kind of bring some of those pearls up. So we'll do a little bit of a torch. I think we're popping air bubbles more than anything else. And there we go. So that is a hybrid technique, and we really won't know the results until about an hour or so, because the pearls like to develop over time. They'll start kind of popping up right away, but they will continue to expand and show up as time progresses. So we're already getting a few more in here. You can kind of see that torching might have helped a little bit. So it usually takes about an hour or so to completely see the results of like a pearl pour painting. So we'll find out and see if this continues to develop. And if it turns out good, I'll post a picture. Or even if it doesn't, I'll just post a picture in the group and you can check out the results. And let's see here. So I quite like it though. I mean, I think it's kind of a nice color palette. I like this bronzy gold color. Got kind of muted because of the mixing with the blue and the dark color. But if it was a bit thicker for like a standard floating cup, I normally mix it a bit thicker, the number 2 consistency, or for like ring pours or straight pours. It's a very pretty color, so I will probably use that again in the future. I kind of like, we've got this subtle lacing up in here in this dark region, and I like these interesting little cells, and the pearls are starting to pop up a bit more. So it's looking pretty cool. So I think it's a successful experiment, and definitely we can try it again. You could give it a try if you wanted to, this pearl / floating cup technique. So I am getting cells on the edges. I can't really show you that too much, but there are some popping up down here, but they are developing throughout the painting. So that's kind of cool. All right, so let me see. And Donna thinks has a suggestion. I think you need to pour some off the top right because there is white in opposite corners. Your eye kind of bounce from corner to corner. I agree with you. Yeah, that's kind of distracting. It's not ideal, like as far as a composition goes, but I don't want to tilt anymore because the pearls are starting to form, and we kind of stretch them out and make them. There's a chance you could kind of get them distorted, and they'd be a kind of weird. So as far as an experiment, which this is, it's fine for me. You know, this was more of a finished piece. I might have tilted a little bit more to make sure my corners were different. But as far as this one goes, just a test, I'm happy leaving it not, perfect, of course. And we are getting some more pearls popping up, which is nice. We've got some blue ones here, some white ones, white and blue. So we'll let that sit, and maybe I'll answer some questions. And Lily is asking, floating cup or flip cup? This was a floating cup in a pearl mixture, a pearl pour mixture. So kind of fun. It's kind of a fun technique. So let's see here. Are there any other questions? Thanks, Novala. Novala likes the color palette. She thinks it's very sophisticated. I appreciate that very much. So let's see. I'm going to flip over. I'll look at you for a little bit. You can look at me. And maybe a little later, I'll answer a couple questions. We'll pop back over and see if the painting has changed at all. So let me see if there are any questions that I might have missed. And if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments, by the way. Okay. And Pat has a question from earlier, and she says, is the pearl mix the same as the cloud mix? It's very, very similar. I use a slightly different cloud mixture. You could use this for a cloud pour if you wanted to. It's pretty much got all the right ingredients and stuff in there. For a cloud pour, I like to substitute the Vallejo Pearl Medium instead of the Liquitex Pouring Medium. But that would also probably work for a pearl pour too. I haven't really tested that out yet. I probably should, but it's very, very close. They're very, very close. And there's a lot of different, pearl formulas out there. This is just one that I have used and it's worked for me. It's fairly simple and easy. Some people have much more complex pearl mixtures. They use the Liquitex Pouring Medium as well as like the GAC 800, the golden GAC 800, which is, you could also use the golden pouring medium. It's basically the same thing as the GAC. So they'll use both of those together. They'll use some other types of paints. But the main ingredient, the most important ingredient is some kind of a satin enamel. So either the DecoArt Satin Enamel or the Behr, which is the Home Depot brand Satin Enamel. Either of those will work. I tend to like to use the DecoArt for the pearl mixture. I found it just is a little more reactive than the Behr, and you can kind of get some more pearl action happening. So let's see here. Donna is asking, instead of finger dragging, could you have drizzled a little color to get the color to the other side, or would that have been too sharp of a line? You could have poured some direct pour elements or used your stick to kind of drizzle some paint on top. That's kind of you would have a sharper line doing that. But you could do it. You could also drag your stick through with some paint on it. That will add some extra color. But anytime you pour paint on a paint puddle, you are having two kind of sharp lines. But in the case of our cloud mix here, or our pearl mix, that will diffuse. Those edges will kind of diffuse. And that's kind of that cloud over technique that Sarah Taylor uses all the time, that she kind of made her own. So she'll pour her pearl mix or cloud mix on top of her paint puddles and move that around a bit, and you'll get a little more organic movement and shapes. But then that mixture kind of diffuses into the other paints, and you'll get these kind of really soft, cloudy edges, which is kind of cool. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could go about doing that. That's one that would actually work pretty good, I think. So that's kind of an extra element on top of our two that we have already used. So that would be like a pearl base coat and a floating cup and like a direct pour, or that cloud over effect. And it looks pretty cool. But if you do too much of that, it can kind of overtake some of your other colors, which some people really, really like. I'm not a massive fan of when the pearl mixture is so reactive that it takes over all the colors and you're left with just these spider lines of color, and that's about it. It's a very interesting look. It's not like my favorite look in the world, though. But that's a great thought, Donna. And let's see here. And Novala's got a question asking, what about the matte paint? That is a different cloud mixture. So I have 3 different cloud pour mixtures. And the very simplest is called my Easy Cloud Pour Mix, which uses Floetrol. And you could use, again, the satin enamels. But then instead of the Liquitex and the Artist Loft paint, it just uses a matte Craft Smart paint. So it's a white paint, very inexpensive, basically a craft paint from Michaels that's matte. But that's also kind of a reactive paint. So it's a little bit like the satin enamel, that Craft Smart white matte paint. That's a very simple formula. So that's 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part of a satin enamel, the Bear or the DecoArt, and 1 part of that Craft Smart paint. So you can give that a try and see if that creates some pearls for you. I haven't tried that mixture with this technique. This is the first time I've tried this. But it might work because you have kind of the 2 reactive paints together, and you have, of course, the Floetrol. So you could give it a try for sure, and that might work for you. But yeah, that's one of my other mixtures, one of my other cloud pour mixtures. Good thought, Novala. And would a scoop and drag work like the finger drag? The scoop and drag, are you referring to like the edge of a cup, like the lip drag with your paint cup? That would work basically the same as a finger drag, if that's what you're talking about, Cinda. I'm not exactly sure what a scoop and drag is, though. I'm not quite sure, but it probably would work as well, because you're just kind of manipulating the paint puddle and doing it at that stage where the paint has a chance to meld back together. So pretty much anything you want to do will work. At that stage, you can kind of manipulate it however you want usually, and you'll add some interesting effects. And Donna is asking, are these formulas all in our group somewhere? Yes, absolutely. I haven't added the pearl mixture yet. We haven't covered the pearl pour yet, but all of the cloud pour mixes are inside the membership. You can find them all in there. All right. And Cinda is saying, like, with a palette knife. Yeah, you could use a palette knife to, I think I know what you're talking about, the scoop, like kind of scooping up paint and moving it. And yeah, that would probably work. You want to be careful. That can be a tricky technique, utilizing the palette knife in your paint puddle. But yeah, I'm sure it would work, and you could get some probably very cool looking, interesting manipulations of the paint. And then as you tilt that, they're going to change and kind of morph and become a little more organic, and that could be very cool. So yeah, good idea. Let's see here. And Susan is the lid pouring medium gloss? Oh, the Liquitex pouring medium? Yeah, this is the Liquitex pouring medium right here. It's got the gray label on it. And it just says Liquitex pouring medium, gray label, and it says gloss. They only make gloss. There's no matte or satin. It's just one type of Liquitex pouring medium. This is the one. And look for that gray label. They have mediums with green labels. That's not the same. You want this gray label one, and you want it to say pouring medium. It says it right here, pouring medium. And it is a glossy finish. So yeah, that's the one. And let's see here. Cool. I'm just checking for any other questions. And Monique has got a question. Her famous question. I'll answer that in a second. Cool. Let's see here. Let's see. And Judy has a comment. She said she got one pearl recipe and there's so much water in it, it didn't work. Yeah, it depends on the recipe. And you really need to get the right consistency down. And I'm very happy. I'm going to show you the painting again. It's continuing to develop. The consistency that we use, the number 3, is working very well. for this. And normally I use a number 4 consistency. If you check that out, that's the micro mound consistency for a pearl pour. And that also works very well. But yeah, you have to be careful with how much water you add. And you also have to be very accurate with your measurements. So you want to measure rather carefully. I have ways, that we in the membership of creating our mixing guides or measuring guides, and you want to be very accurate with your measurements. So let's see here. And Judy is asking, where are the recipes? They're inside the membership. If you go in the membership, click on your products tab. It's up at the top. And then go into the Pouring Studio section. And there's a whole list of PDFs. And there's a bunch of them. And just look for cloud pour mixtures and things like that. You'll find a whole bunch of good stuff in there. All right. All right. So Monique is asking, where was Monique's question? Did I have pets growing up? And if I did, what kind of pets did you have? I didn't have a lot of pets growing up. I had a cat, which was kind of a crazy cat who didn't like the inside. It was like an outside cat, and he didn't like to come inside. So we just left him outside. And he was he was an interesting cat, kind of like a feral cat, I guess, but crazy. And I had a dog for a little while. But then the dog, I think it got stolen by our neighbor. And, it was like a little dog. It looked like Benji. And that was when I was, young. And then one day the dog wasn't there, but the neighbors had a dog that looked a lot like our dog. I don't know. It was weird. But my parents were not thrilled with the dog, so they kind of let it go. And I had rabbits too, for some reason. So that's about it. And then I don't have any pets at the moment. So too busy painting for pets. So, all right. So let's see here. Any other questions before I show you our results of our painting again? And Donna is asking, why do you call it products instead of recipes or PDF? Well, products is part of the system that I use. I use Podia as far as a content management system. And that's what they named it. It's called products. And so the products include courses or things like that. So that's where you have to go and hit that products tab. I don't have a way of changing it. I would if I could, but that's just what we have to live with. So there's only so much I can change about our system. So that is it. All right. Cool. All right. So no other questions. Let's take a look at what has happened in the last about maybe 10 minutes while we've been chatting. And I think you'll be very surprised. So here we go. So here we are. I think this will clear up a little bit. We've got a lot of pearls popping up there. And I'm very happy with our experiment. So they came flooding through here. Notice that's kind of where we were pouring off of this corner. And so we've thinned out this paint and we thinned it enough to let that pearl mixture shine through, which is very cool. And we've got these interesting ones up here. They kind of follow some of the design in the painting, which is kind of fun. So it's created a very interesting pearl pour painting. I really like it. So we've kind of had a successful experiment, which is always nice. So this is the floating pearl pour technique, I guess. I'm going to dub it the floating pearl pour technique. There we go. I'm sure someone else has probably tried it before, but that's what I'm going to call it. And I really like it. So successful experiment. It's great when they work out. So I'm sure I'll try this again in the future. And let's see here. And we'll see if it continues to develop. It's only been 10, 15 minutes. So it might continue to evolve as the time progresses here. And I'll share a final image of when it's dry, and you can see what the final outcome was. But I really, really am very happy with it. I really didn't know if it was going to work like this. And again, I have not tried this before, but I paid close attention to my consistencies, getting that number 3 consistency. And then we did the floating cup on top. All the paint was mixed to the same consistency. Then we thinned it out enough, I think, to allow those pearls to shine through. So, Susan wants me to zoom in. I can do that. Just a second. Oop, that's not in. That's out. I'll zoom in and then I'll kind of move it around for you. And you can kind of see what's happening. So let me bring it down here. So here's the top left corner, and I'll just kind of move it around. You can kind of get a close up. And we got some cool cells up there. And then here's maybe a little bit too zoomed in. There's that right corner. I really like the look of those cells. I think that's very cool. And let's keep going this way. But these cells are very interesting, and they look a lot like silicone cells, actually, to me. But there's no silicone in any of these paints. And the Liquitex helps create these very sharp edges, which I like a lot. You can use the GAC, the golden GAC 800, if you wanted to replace that with the Liquitex. You can definitely do that. And so you can just use one or the other. You don't have to use both. I guess you could use both if you really wanted to. But the GAC, I found, creates not quite as sharp of an edge around your pearls. You get a little more of a diffused kind of cloudy edge, which is also kind of a cool look. So there we go. That is our painting. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see the whole thing one more time. So you can see the bulk of it here. And there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. So let me flip back over and so give this a try. I think you'll have a lot of fun with this one. So again, what I was mentioning about our recipe, if you can use the 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part satin enamel, DecoArt or the Bear, 1 part the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic White, which is what I used. And then you can use 1 part of either the Liquitex Pouring Medium or the GAC 800. They'll both give you slightly different results. They'll both work for you and give you pearls, but they'll look slightly different. I kind of like the Liquitex a little bit better. I kind of like those sharp lines as opposed to like slightly softer lines around with the GAC 800. And I guess you could try them both if you wanted and get maybe a combo of the two. Yeah, this is a fun technique. So, and I got one more question here from Donna, and she's asking, do you think Aussie Floetrol is worth it? Personally, no, I don't think it's worth it. It's very expensive. And the other thing is, you don't know how long that's been sitting around, the one you get. So I have gotten them. I've only gotten a couple, but one of them was not very good. And so personally, I don't think it's worth it. I don't really use it all that much. You know, if you're really into blooms, like if you love blooms it's probably worth it to you to get the Australian Floetrol. To me, I'm not a huge fan of the blooms. They're fun and they're cool, but it's not like I'm obsessed with them. I love all these other techniques a whole lot more than blooms. So to me, it's really not worth it, but it really depends on you, and what you're doing, what kind of techniques you love. So that's my 2 cents on the Australian Floetrol, though. Um, so, and because it is quite pricey, and we have some alternatives. You could do similar things without using it, like our that Liquitex formula we had, the Liquitex ink. It's close enough for me for like a bloom technique. So, okay. All right. So that is it. Thanks so much, everyone. I don't see any other questions. Thanks for joining me and doing an experiment with me. I think it turned out great. Now, go ahead and try this if you want to. I think you'd enjoy it. And, it is a little bit more pricey getting these different materials, but you can make some pretty awesome paintings. Now, the next step for me would be to do this on a larger scale, tweak maybe the colors. Instead of using the white pearl, base coat, maybe adding some extra color or making it off-white or doing something like that. So, but you can tweak this and play with it and, just have fun with it. So thanks so much, everyone. And I hope you have a great weekend and try some pearl or floating pearl pork paintings. Okay, I don't know. I'll come up with a good name for that one, a catchy one. So, all right. Take care, everyone. I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.